So we left Wyoming early in the morning and got to ride a snowstorm all the way down to Texas. From when we left all the way to Amarillo, we were driving through snow and black ice conditions. It was kind of a hairy drive. By the time we got to Turkey, where the race is, the weather was nice. Turkey, Texas is a pretty neat little town where this race is being hosted. They have the pits out at the fairgrounds, and that's where the start is as well. And then from there, you transfer out and get to go down the main drag of town out to the first test. It's kind of unique to be able to have a race start and actually drive through the middle of town.
Test one was really dusty, really rutted. The red dirt, the dust, you could see through it pretty well, but you'd hit the white stuff. It was just like talcum powder. It just filled the air like this milky white dust. You couldn't hardly see it. And then the ruts, the ones in the red soil weren't too bad. They were fairly consistent through it, but then you hit the ones inside the white soil, and some of them had huge rocks in them, some of them were rocks. They just totally unpredictable, totally kick your butt. A lot of dust. Test two was similar, but had a little bit more fast stuff in it. It was really dusty. It was kind of a tough one to get into a really good flow because it kept going back and forth between tight and more open and back and forth. But with the dust and people, you struggled to get into any kind of rhythm. And it was fun, but I don't know if I did all that well. Test three was fun. It was really fast, really high speed stuff out there in the wash. There was times riding completely wide open, 6 gear, and kind of wishing I would have run a 14-tooth front sprocket, get a little bit more top speed, because there were some of these big bore 450s that were passing me out there when I had no more top end left to go. But that was a lot of fun. I don't know if I finished well in that section, but I definitely had a blast in it. Test 4, really deep ruts. I almost had a really nasty fall right out the gate. Really early in the test, there was a deep, hard rut that went along the cliff edge and came into it a little out of balance and almost high-sided and didn't come off the bike and made it just fine. But it was good heart pumper, because really close that if I would have fallen off that one, it probably would have been the end of my day getting back out of that valley. But test 4 was also really rutted, really choppy. It was fun, but I don't think did well. So overall on the day, it was fun, very technical, lots and lots of ruts, lots of dust. I haven't looked to see how I did yet. I don't think I did particularly well. I mean, if I can come away with a top 3 finish today, I'll be pretty ecstatic, but I feel like I kind of got my butt kicked today. Everything I've been doing with all my endurance helped, but it didn't really make that big a difference. Today was all about who's got the most practice in this kind of stuff, and it certainly isn't me. I've got more races now, or as many races this year as I have times out practice riding, and more hours racing than practicing so far this season. So yeah, not that we get a lot of opportunities to practice and stuff that anyways, but yeah, good fun. Guess we'll see how we do. We'll go at it again and do it for almost twice the distance tomorrow. So just finished looking at the results. A little disappointing. Finished 17 seconds outside the podium. Second all the way through fourth. It's probably about a 30 or about a 40-second spread. Had the second fastest times in test 1 and 4, third fastest in 2, and then test 3 I had the 4th fastest, and that's what kept me off the podium. Just not enough commitment to going fast in the real high speed one, and so that's kind of a little bit of a bummer for day 1. But going into day 2, we're just gonna have to step it up a little bit and hit a little harder tomorrow and see if we can't walk away on the podium. All right, just finished the Enduro. I'm smoked. That was brutal. Test 1 through 4, I felt like I was really riding really good. Just had an awesome pace, awesome rhythm. Test 1, I felt like I rode pretty good. I can't remember anything particularly unique about it. I'm just so exhausted right now. Test 2 was where they had the A-B split. It was very technical, a lot of off-camber, deep ruts, very, very technical, not a lot of opportunities to pass, lots of opportunities to make mistakes that could cost you big time. Test 3 was fast and flowing. I felt like I rode extremely well on Test 3. Had a really good rhythm and was just ripping through there. Test 4, also I felt like I rode really well. There was some high-speed sections in there. I had a pretty high-speed fall. I just lost traction on the front, washed the front out, fourth or fifth gear wide open, and just hit the ground and bounced my head like a basketball. Seeing stars. Got up as quick as I could, but I was just struggling to stand back up. That one rang my bell pretty good. I got back on and tried to get after it, not to lose too much pace. After Test 4, I definitely was starting to feel tired. Then when we got into Test 5, I realized I had been pacing very poorly, and I'd been pushing really hard through Test 1 through 4, and I did not ration my energy very well for Test 5. Test 5 started out very technical. There were some rock gardens, deep sand hills, really steep off-camber stuff with deep sandy trenches, lots of silt. Just really, really technical. The kind of places where you really had to really be cautious, because making a mistake would cost you 10 times more than simply taking your time and going slow. I was pretty spent after those sections. I really was struggling to get momentum going, but after a while I got my pace back and was starting to ride a little bit better.
So this section you're seeing here was one of those nasty rock gardens after we've been riding for several hours, into it a good at least 60-65 miles into the ride. Once we finally got through this really silty, rocky area, they took us up into the hills. And it was switchbacks. As you can see right here, GoPro never shows things to be as bad as what they are, but this whole area is really steep and off camber. And then you've got this switchback with this huge crater and an undercut ledge. I had to go past it and do a pivot turn just to be able to move forward. This is a good depiction of what Test 5 was really like. So unfortunately, being short, putting my foot down to be able to do a pivot turn doesn't always work so great. That's why I end up having to climb across here. But this is a lot of how Test 5 was. Really challenging stuff that if you didn't make it clean first shot, pretty tough to get out of. This test definitely proved to be a bit of a war of attrition.
Before Test 6, the fuel, I was hitting everything I had to refuel my body. And I started feeling a little bit better because I was pretty drained after Test 5. And then went after Test 6, probably a little cautiously out the gate. And the rhythm of it was good. I felt like I could start pushing it a little bit more, going a little faster. And then it started getting more technical and harder, lots of big silty hill climbs. And at that point, then the tired was hitting me. I ended up having to go with my bike up a hill, and I hate ghosting my bike. I think it's just the worst thing. Ended up having to do that. Of course, the handlebars fall to the downhill side, just over the apex of the hill, but still all an uphill slope. So burned tons of energy getting the bike back up and getting on it. at that point I was just smoked. Try to get into a good rhythm. Was really struggling to go, just exhausted, and then as it's continued to be silty and technical, I just continued to make mistakes due to the how silty it was, and uphills and downhills and tight and off cambers. It it was, I was just exhausted. I didn't ration my energy very well. We just got back in the pits, so we're starting to pack up and kind of waiting to hear back on what the scores are. I don't imagine I did particularly well. It's hard to say with races that are that long, that brutal. Sometimes it's a war of attrition, so it's hard to tell. But we'll see where we end up.
On our way back from Turkey, Texas, the non-finalized results were starting to show through. Even though I felt like I had a really rough day, I ended up actually doing pretty well. I took first in nearly all of the tests I was in, including tests 5 and 6, which really I felt like I kind of came apart in those tests and really wasn't riding very good anymore. They ended up dropping test 2 due to some people blowing the corner, and I guess there was enough of them with protests that they ended up dropping that section, which was kind of a bummer. It was a great section for me, but in the end it really didn't change anything in the order of the people in my class. I ended up finishing first on day 2. I was kind of surprised, but pretty happy about that. It was, nice to put another first place finish on the season, but I know realistically that we've got some more work to do. I got tired before the race was over, and I need to be able to push that pace in Enduro the entire race without getting tired. So now we've got a few more weeks left until the Black Hills Sprint Enduro. Now it's time to put in the work.